Hey everyone, we are finally back with another public update video, and by we I mean with me as always is Corey. Say hi, Corey.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
And starting with DaemonClaw, I've made some good progress tweaking some things and hopefully taking care of the last remaining known bug. And I made a build and sent that out to our best tester who has access to the full builds of the game. And I've been testing it extensively, and Corey has been playing. And in fact, just before recording this video, Corey and I had a little meeting talking about some things we could potentially tweak to make better. But otherwise, DaemonClaw is in really good shape. It's getting super close to ready for us to actually send out the demo to some YouTubers and Twitch streamers and stuff like that. So in anticipation of that, our next big goal is, as we mentioned I think in our previous video, is to get a page ready on both Steam and on itch.io for DaemonClaw, like a coming soon, so that we can do a call to action thing when we're really ready to start doing a lot more social media awareness. We really want there to be that call to action. Wishlist us on Steam or follow us on itch.io, and so we'll be getting those ready. So this is kind of a behind the scenes look at the itch.io dashboard for editing a game page, and it really seems to be a very indie-centric platform.
Yeah.
And I also discovered recently that not only do they allow you to post and sell your games on here, but also game assets. And for those of you that don't know, Corey and I a long time ago created a bunch of art packs, which we're actually starting to slowly, as we have time, upgrade. And so that'll be another place we could actually put our art packs as well. So it's like a platform will be able to easily sell every product we make all on one platform, which is nice. They've got their own community, and it's really cool how when you add a game as a developer on itch.io, you can then do dev vlogs. So when we do update videos, once we get these game pages set up, we'll be able to post it there too.
You know, you can find some quality stuff on here.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I just wanted to click on one of the better known 2D indie games. You can really trick out your page pretty nicely. Like, obviously, we'll have some nice screenshots and trailer video done, but just, you could really do a nice banner and background image and stuff like that. So this is the kind of thing that we'll be working on. Like, we've already started.
I actually find this format a little more attractive than
Steam. I agree completely. Yeah. I agree. It gives you more room, and just because you can give it all your own art and even pick your background color.
Yeah.
Like, you could just completely customize it to match your game, where with Steam, your stuff is fitted within the default Steam game page, so to speak.
Right.
So yeah, this is really nice. I'm looking forward to it. On the DaemonClaw side, that's pretty much where things are. There's that tiny bit of art left to do. A lot more art we need to do actually to just get the store pages ready than is left to do for the demo. But so yeah, we're getting really close to really starting to do a social media post for DaemonClaw. So that's about it for DaemonClaw. We will segue to Metro Siege, but before we get into actual Metro Siege progress, I did want to quickly recap. As you know from our previous public update video, I was getting ready to go on a trip to a retro gaming convention in Germany, so I actually brought the latest build of Metro Siege there and let people play it. The trip went really well, and the best fun for me, what really is reassuring to me, is when you have, everyone there is an old fart like me, and some of them drag their kids, ranging from like 8 years old to teenagers, to these retro computer conventions. And there's no real reason for these kids to really care about these old computers, more than the fact that it's something they share with their parents if their father or mother is interested in the old computer. But to see Metro Siege really catch their eye, and they play it, and then they stop to give other people a turn and, walk around the convention, and then they drag their parents back to Metro Siege to play it repeatedly for the hours that they're there at the convention. That's what lets me know, like, our goal is to make this one of the just best, most fun beat-em-up games, regardless of platform.
It's the kid test.
Yeah, exactly.
The kid likes it, it's...
Exactly. It's a combination of, one, they're not seeing the game through through nostalgia colored glasses.
Right.
They didn't grow up with a love of Amiga. And the other thing is, as that old saying goes, from the mouths of babes.
Right.
If someone's going to show their obvious boredom or criticism, it's going to be a kid. So it's great to see that everyone that played it, adults included, really liked it.
Yeah, and generally, too, just being physically around people that are playing your game tells you a lot,
They're
having fun, and you can, there's all the body language and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think I'm a little jealous because I'm sure that was a really positive experience overall.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with Metro Siege, because it's such a...
Absolutely.
You've been ensuring such quality going on there,
But anyway, so the trip went really well. And to get back on point with showing actual progress, let me actually get the Amiga emulator going. I had mentioned in our previous update that we were hoping to get level 4 mostly working, not with the enemies, but just the environment, so that I could show people at that retro event. But Alex was not able to finish it then, but he has now, so you guys are going to be the first to see it. So here we go. So here is a sneak peek at the still unfinished and currently empty level 4, meaning no enemies yet. But Alex, the programmer, already did benchmark it. He had the level 1 enemies in there already to make sure that with the parallax you're seeing, we still have the performance available to have, the typical 4 enemies and it all running smoothly. But so you can see this is the industrial area. And we have got 2 layers of scrolling in the background instead of just 1, as well as these still unfinished. Those are, I don't know if you've ever seen them in different cities in America. There are big, they're basically traffic barriers that block off industrial parking lots and stuff like that. So they'll look more like that and more detailed when I'm done with them and a little less vibrant. But they're in, basically, let me talk about, let me skip back my train of thought here back to the background parallax. So I had this cool idea that because there's these gaps between big buildings, you could create the illusion of entire full screen back layers using the very modest Amiga sprite hardware, because you only need the stuff that fits within that window. It doesn't actually have to go across the whole screen. So Alex Brown, the programmer, had to be really clever, and you'll see as I scroll off the screen and then scroll onto a new gap between the buildings, all of the sprites that made that background stuff has to teleport back and forth. Let's see if you it works perfectly. So you could see, keep that in mind. Those aren't actual just simple back layers. The programmer actually has to make all of these sprites scroll at specific speeds, stay stuck to each other, think about what simulated layer they're on, and therefore what is their parallax layer and position. But then it has to keep track of, per gap between buildings, which one is visible, and teleport all those sprites over to...
is, I guess, for anyone watching that may be less familiar with Amiga hardware and stuff, this is technically, it's only really one layer, right?
Yes,
that's
exactly.
all that's, and it's the illusion, all this illusion effects. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating for that to be the case. I mean, if you remember other systems with one layer, like the NES and stuff, you saw a lot of compromise with what people did. They would just have a solid color there or something. But this is, it's and the teleporting, going so far as to teleport the objects around to make it work is impressive. On Alex's part.
That's a great thing. Being able to work with such a skillful and patient and dedicated programmer that, wait till you see the next level that he's working on now. We showed you guys in the previous, if you go back and look at the previous public update video, the highway overpass level, he's working on getting that all working now. And that's an even more of a mind F to get the parallax working. That's a combination of the technology or the tricks we're using in level 2 with the big subway train in the background.
Yeah.
So instead of the tiles being the actual subway train that whips by, it's a mid layer of giant buildings. So the far background and the foreground that the players are actually stuck to, the highway overpass floor and barriers, that's all sprites and horizontal bars of color.
Yeah, and you've even went so far as to have like a distant road back there with other
cars and stuff.
Distant cars on it going. Yeah, it's looking really good.
Yeah.
And this level in particular, like, it's been in the works for a while artistically. Like, you keep taking it through those upgrade phases.
Yeah, exactly.
And I remember it hit that point where it was like the major color scheme upgrade. It's getting very close now. You know what I mean? Exactly. And I think that's when I fell in love with it truly. I was like, oh, it looks, not only does it feel different from everything else so far, but it just feels right. Like, all the mood is just right, for what you're going for. Yeah,
it was really fun to do things like just hit that light coming through the gap in the windows on the crate there. And even on the sidewalk here, you could see how it's more brightly lit where Alex is right now.
Right, yeah.
And just those touches just give it that more cinematic atmosphere that I'm going for. And this is just the beginning. There's still a lot of not only cleaning left to do, but detailing. There needs to be a lot more litter. We can use the animated tiles to add life. There's probably going to be like a scurrying rat and whatever we figure out.
little hole in the crate where the
exactly. Seriously, certainly something. Some movement in the some skeevy movement going on in the dumpster. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. And the other fun thing is, like, we have a Patreon. And some of our backers, like, we just let them know occasionally, okay, we're working on this level. So first it was graffiti in levels 1 and 2. They got to request graffiti. And in this one, some of them, like Predsetta is one of our Patreon backers. And so it's Predsetta importers. So they're the businesses at the warehouse district.
Yep.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. That sign isn't cleaned up yet, but I roughed it in to figure out where it goes. So, also Mr. Din Storage. There's another one of our backers. So, so the other thing is, this is the level that's going to introduce enemies that can roll like you can when you're on the ground. So I'll do a secret move to lie on the ground and remind you that you can, like, so. Now there are going to be enemies that are going to be able to do flying elbow drops and knee drops at you. And then so you could even taunt them. So imagine, so this is what I mean, the flexibility of gameplay.
Right.
So imagine if, like, you want to beat a boss in a really funny way and that boss is prone to trying to elbow drop you. You could get his meter down to like a sliver and then tempt him to elbow drop you and roll out of the way, and he'll hurt himself landing on the concrete and die.
And that could be like the final blow.
Exactly.
Like, that takes him out.
Exactly. Like, that's the kind of fun stuff I love. Really allowing the player to be creative, play with style, and stuff like that is the kind of things I love. And so, because this is the level, and this goes into game design and storytelling, because this is the level that introduces enemies that can roll, guess why that garage door is partially down? I'm going to use the roll animation to introduce some of the enemies. They're going to come rolling out of the darkness under that door into the play level. So, like, that'll be a very natural cinematic way of introducing that to the player.
You mean barrels aren't going to roll out from under the... No, kidding.
That's the Bitbeam Cannon promise. No barrels in any of our games, unless it really makes sense. But anyway, so yeah, that is how. Oh, and by the way, this is the progress that we can show you right now because this tile set is fairly cleaned up. The goal now with Metro Siege is get a rough version of the entire rest of the game done as quickly as possible to really perfect the length of the game, this kind of storytelling, the kind of beats, like what cinematic is needed where, and literally get a feeling for how long each level should be gameplay-wise, and perfect all that. And that'll give us a really good kind of reality check for the overall size of the game. Do we need to make it bigger or shorter? Should certain levels be shorter? We don't want any level to overstay its welcome, as we've mentioned in previous videos. Even though this is my favorite genre, almost every game in the entire genre suffers from the same, what I consider, design mistake. And that's stretching things out so that in most beat 'em up games I've played, I start off wanting to play it, and then I only finish the game because I feel like, well, I've put in a half hour, I've put in 45 minutes. If I don't finish it, I'll feel like I've wasted my time.
Yeah, we've done a lot of playthroughs of beat 'em ups on various systems, on our channel for anybody that wants to check them out.
You killed my brother, Token Eater. I will have my revenge. I'm Dollar Muncher.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder now how much farther there is. I almost always opt to play Streets of Rage 2 instead of 3, as it's a shorter game with, I think, better balanced gameplay. But after the half-hour point, you start feeling like, how much longer is this? And you feel like...
We've played enough of them where it seems like it's about the 45-minute, 40 to 45-minute mark is when it's starting to feel like... because at that point in those games that are stretched, they're just repeating the same enemies, and you might get a new boss every now and again or something.
Right.
And I think our mood shifts in those videos too. When it reaches that point,
you can watch us
this is feeling like it's taken forever. But
exactly.
That's my my theory on that. Is it's about the 45-minute mark.
Yeah. So our goal is to not only keep introducing new things, new play mechanics, even plot twists, even funny things, surprise people. I want this game to go back to the more cinematic nature of what inspired the whole genre of beat 'em ups, which were those 80s and early 90s vigilante movies.
Right.
And so it's all I want more kind of fluid, unobtrusive, not time-wasty things going on that enrich the world. And so that's where we'll be introducing some of those surprising bits of comedy that aren't just crazy stuff out of nowhere. Like in Metro Siege, there's not going to be suddenly, the president was replaced by a robot, or suddenly there's aliens and stuff like that. The creativity that's going into Metro Siege is much more grounded in the kind of classic Hollywood vigilante movies and stuff like that. So a little more real worldy. There's still a ton of room for creativity, but it's within that flavor and within those constraints.
Yeah, and I think also it speaks to the pacing.
If it's repetitive, it can get boring.
Exactly.
What I mean?
That's the idea. You got to have something new, whether it's a mechanic that's getting emphasized or something. In each level. Yeah. Exactly.
So that's our thing. We're going to introduce something new frequently in any one level. It's going to be short and fun. And our goal, and pretty much the motto of every Bitbeam Canon arcade and console style game we're going to make, is going to be the true value of a game is not how many hours it takes to beat it. It's how much fun you had every second you were playing, and how much you want to replay it because of that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's true value of a game. And it became a marketing trap that the entire industry, and unfortunately the entire fan base, kind of fell into that mindset, is where you hear about a game and you go, the game's not worth it. It only takes an hour or 10 hours or whatever to beat. And it's that's not the point. The point, in other words, how long it takes that's not even content. If you're grinding the same basic enemies for 50 hours and they brag 50 hours of gameplay to beat the game, you're kind of being suckered. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's plenty of long format games that I love. I'm not completely alienated by those genres.
Right, not at all. I love Metroid.
But as far as particularly this type of game, especially an action game, you definitely don't want to feel that at all. You don't want that feeling even once, to feel like you're doing something again.
Exactly.
Even though it's maybe a different level background or something.
Yep. So going back to one of the influences of DaemonClaw, when you actually get good at Black Belt on the Sega Master System, except for the ridiculously impossible to hurt Rita at the end. If you get good at her too, despite all of its flaws, once you got good at that game, every level and every boss fight was different enough, and you could beat the whole game in 12 minutes once you got good at it.
Yes, it had a weird addictive pace.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's the point, and that's what we're shooting for with DaemonClaw and Metro Siege, is there have been many days where I'd beat Black Belt And then an hour later, I've got a little time to kill or something. I'm like, I'll play it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's value.
Yep.
And it's very rare that you run into a modern game like that, where it's focused on not boring you. You know what I mean? It's like, so anyway, that's the point of that. Is with Metro Siege, it's all about making sure it never overstays its welcome and never starts to feel repetitive, which is of course a lofty goal, but we're doing everything we can towards that. To get back onto the point of actual progress we've been making, there are 2 other levels that Alex got working with rough placeholder art. I won't bother showing those because they're just too rough. But like I was saying, the goal is to just get the whole skeleton in, get it all working, get it all so we know exactly what needs to be added and what needs to be shortened, and then polish it up. So that'll bring us drastically closer to a finished game and give us a really concrete roadmap to follow to get the game finished.
Absolutely. So, that will inform the idea of how much content you need per level and things like that, the length.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that like really helps alleviate that risk, not just among indie developers, but even big game studios. If you're just kind of creating as you go, not only can that really bloat your development time and development budget, but you run the massive risk. So much can end up on the cutting room floor, like absolutely, much wasted time and effort. And that goes to the point. And keep in mind, everyone, we plan on doing this same exact thing with DaemonClaw. After we're done getting the Steam and itch pages done and get the demo out to people, our next goal is for me to finish the game with placeholder art, get the levels finished, get the remaining boss fights playable, because that's another huge risk of ending up wasting so much time making really polished art. You can have great ideas, and our patrons saw this, like they saw our brainstorming videos and the development of the level 1 boss fight for DaemonClaw. We had these ideas that sounded great in our heads, and even though we're experienced game designers, and between Corey and I, we probably have over 50 published games under our belts that we were like a part of the team. And despite that, there's ideas that sound good on paper, and then you actually try to implement it, and it just doesn't gel like you thought it would, and you end up dropping that because the game is actually better without it. And so there's 2 approaches to that. You can make all this beautiful art and perfect the art and then get it working in game and then discover it's not great, and then there's a double risk. One, you've certainly wasted time because you worked on a bunch of time for a feature the game is probably better off without. But even worse, because you spent that time and you kind of put your heart into making the art for this thing, you might not be able to see it clearly from a pure gameplay standpoint, and you might leave the not great feature in and just move on because you've put all the work into it.
Right off the bat, you need some sense of scale of your project. And part of that is narrowing it down to like what it really absolutely needs at the start of the project, and the things that are like, these are things that I could work in, but I'm not sure yet. So the time you want to invest early on even is like, make sure it's a thing that's going to count and matter, that is needed for your game. Because you can end up in those situations. We've been through those types of projects before, and even with DaemonClaw, we've had some ups and downs with some of the artwork. But we're entering that phase with DaemonClaw of, now it's time to make sure the entire beginning to end gameplay experience is nice and tight, and it has the right progression and everything. So
I mean, it's exciting to be at that stage with both games. So we're already starting, like I said, getting in the other levels. Very rough in Metro Siege. That theoretically should only be a matter of weeks to get that done. Meanwhile, we'll simultaneously be working on getting the DaemonClaw demo finished and getting the store pages done, so we could take that to the next level and start sending the demo to people. Exciting stuff happening, but I don't want to make this video even longer still, so I think we're going to wrap it up there. But
and as a quick side note, part of the reason we didn't have a public update for a while was I was without internet for about 9 days.
That's rough.
A couple of days after Mike got back from the trip.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks again, everyone, for watching and for your support, and we'll be back pretty soon with another update.
If you enjoy our content and want to keep up to date on our games, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you want to support our projects, consider becoming a patron. The link's in the description, and we'll see you soon.